Hi, Cindy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I love your Grinch sweater.
Thank you. Here we go. There's
You
the
see
rest of
mine?
them. No, I can't wait to see yours. I can see you have
Mine's
things on there. Oh my
oh,
gosh.
mine's all trashed out. It's actually kind of heavy.
That is one of the most awesome holiday sweaters I've ever seen. I mean, you have like multimedia going on there. I can hear
I can't
it.
wash it. I cannot wash it. Yeah, you can hear it. You can hear all the sound effects.
That's great. Hi, folks. Welcome to our Chillin' with Adam holiday special with Sara and Adam Kujawa. Sara and I decided to dress in our holiday sweaters today. And it happens to be, we happen to be in Texas and California, so it is not very wintry here. I have a sweat mustache and goatee.
And so do I.
And Sara turned her heat off. So what we wanted to talk about today is we wanted to recognize how difficult the holiday seasons are for people who are grieving the loss of a loved one.
Yes. So we have different suggestions and tips that Cindy and I have put together to help us through the holidays. It'll be almost 4 years for me and for Cindy. We both.
It's
Yes.
going to be close to 7. So let's back up a little bit. Sara and I both have sons named Adam who transitioned in the month of January, right after the holidays. My Adam Hamel, transitioned at the age of 27 in January 2011 due to injuries sustained in a car accident. Adam was an organ donor. For the last 4 days he was with us. He was on life support, but he spent a good part of the entire 4 days showing us that he is still here. And he's been communicating with me ever since. Sara's son, Adam Kujawa, transitioned in January 2014.
Yes. He died suddenly in a work accident, and we began receiving messages from him within hours. And so, as you can see, Cindy and I have been through the worst of the worst, and we're here to help some of you to be able to get through the holidays with a little bit more pep in your step. So that's our goal.
Please keep in mind that there's no right way to grieve, that we're not here to give anybody advice, that we're just here to share what we do. And if you hear anything helpful that lifts your spirits or helps you get through this holiday season, then we've accomplished our purpose and our hearts are happy.
Yes. And like Cindy said, there's no right or wrong. So the tips that we'll give you and suggestions are things that have worked for us, that may or may not work for you, or they may work for you in the future, or you may have tips or suggestions you may want to share on the comments on the YouTube video.
Please do. Please do. If you have suggestions about how you survive the holidays when your hearts are heavy with grief over the loss of a loved one, please put that in the comments. That brings me, though, to a very fundamental point in terms of why or how Sara and I do death differently. Prior to Adam's accident, part of my belief system is that when a life ends, in other words, at the death of our physical body, it's not a period like the end of a sentence. It's more like a comma. Life continues. Sara and I were both shown by our sons that they are still here. And because of our beliefs and because of the fact that, well, I don't want to say maybe because of our beliefs, maybe the better way to say it is you need to be open, first of all, to the idea that your loved one is still here, to be able to receive signs from them. Often what happens is it's not that they're not sending them, it's that we miss them. And if you have a belief system that requires you to say goodbye forever and you don't expect to hear anything from them again, then you're not going to be looking for it. So part of the reason that Sara and I do death differently is that we do not experience the same sense of separation. Once you know they're still here, and it really took me a long time to really get my head around it. I mean, I could conceptually say he's still here, but even saying he's still here felt nebulous to me. Where is here? I mean, when you connect with the energies of your loved one to communicate, they are literally here. I mean, I could be slapping him in the face, okay? They're right here. They really are right here. It requires a lot of work to, for lack of a better analogy, to prepare your vessel to be able to communicate with somebody who's departed the earth plane. These souls have a frequency that is much higher than ours. Our bodies are sort of like an antenna. We are receivers. We can receive messages. However, you only receive messages from stations that match your own frequency. And when you experience a tragedy or trauma, like the death of a child, the natural response to that Sara and I both had was to grieve the usual way. However, that began to change immediately once we began receiving signs, because if, let's say your son is down in a hole and you're listening at the top to see, wow, is there any life still down there? In a different way, Sara and I had an ear, to another dimension, so to speak, just really listening and looking for more signs. Once you acknowledge the first one, you can't help but look for more, right?
Right. One adds to another, to another, to another. And once you see one sign, it uplifts your energy. So you're in a more of a receiving mode.
It absolutely does. With every little joy burst of, oh my gosh, maybe he's still here. Ride that wave, ride it higher and higher and higher. And Sara has some amazing advice for how to get through the next hour. You want to share some of the Reiki principles?
Sure. The Reiki principles, I adjusted them to help me in the process of grieving. I became a Reiki master in that first year after Adam passed, and that so helped me to learn to be able to slow down my thoughts, slow down my mind, work on my energy field, and to heal my energy body. And the 5 Reiki principles, you can Google them, but we'll post them also. But I modified them for my need, and I would always say, just for this hour, I will not worry. Just for this hour, I will not anger. Just for this hour, I will be grateful. And just for this hour, I will show kindness to all. So saying positive affirmations or having your own mantra that you can write to keep you in a more present moment, just to keep you in a calm place, to allow the signs to come through. Because once we go down the road of what already happened or worrying about the future, we're not present. And so it's much harder for us to receive the messages and the signs. So that was a beautiful gift with the 5 Reiki principles. And EFT tapping was another great form, a healing modality. You can Google that on YouTube. There's many of them out there posted, actually for grief, and probably grief for the holidays as well. The tapping that you can use just that will help lift some of the heavy grief that you can use around the house, when you're driving, in the store, at any given moment. And so there's many, many simple ways just to help you change your thought process. You have to learn to flip that switch.
That's right. You really do have to. Now, when you were talking about the tapping, I noticed that you're going like this on your hand.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the way it works, and I am telling you, it is phenomenal. I have seen an EFT demonstration done in a forum of, say, 5,000 people, and there were people there who had experienced chronic pain for years and years and years, where it was just gone. And it's a matter of using acupressure points on the body to tap them. And while you're tapping them, you are repeating affirmations. So it's very, very, very simple. It is so simple. You can read a book and do it all by yourself. Okay? So it's a very effective way to do it. But the bottom line is the energy of grief is so dense. It's so dense. And when it is stuck in our bodies, it's hard to move forward with the feelings, and it's hard to move on to a higher frequency to try to continue communicating with our children. And another interesting thing for me, as well as for a lot of people, is we tend to become heavier. I actually became heavier after Adam transitioned. I mean, I became quite a bit heavier while I was still carrying that grief. And, you know, like you, I became a Reiki master. I did my master training in the middle of 2012. And again, moving that energy out of my subtle energy field made all the difference in the world with being able to be present. You know, when your heart is in pain, when your mind is in pain, when you're in physical pain, there's not a lot of motivation to be present.
No, you don't even know how. You can't even see the light at the end of the tunnel when you're in the deep muck. And so but it's still up to us individually to move forward. You can't rely on the people around you. You have to really able to rely on yourself. And what I've come across in many readings and sessions is that many of the moms that I've spoke to, we were not taught to put ourselves first and to help ourselves. We helped everyone else, let alone the burden we feel that we were not able to help our child. So we have to work through that process. And I'm going to say work because it is work, but it's not. It's a process. It's just a moment-to-moment process.
It is.
Work through it.
It's moment-to-moment and it's 24/7. But let me tell you, it is the most rewarding work you will ever do because you literally learn how to untie and remove your cement shoes.
Yeah, that's right.
That feeling that you have when you wake up where your very first thought is, oh my gosh, that person isn't walking the earth anymore. The first thought that enters your mind is that they're gone, and then you can't breathe, and you feel like there's an undertow in the world trying to suck you down and drown you before you've even put your feet on the floor.
Yes, right.
So the most rewarding work you will ever do is to try to process. I'm not going to say try. I'm going to say to process the emotions and the feelings that are holding us back. Another thing that I found that isn't helpful is to consider myself the victim of a terrible tragedy, or, ask why me, or what could I have done differently, or to, let's say review the details of the accident in my mind. I mean, any time thoughts want to be present to pull me down, it's my job to find some way to go back up. There's nothing more important than that. It's like emotional 911. I've got to find a way to get myself back up. And one of the little tricks I do, I call it the high vibe game with Adam. It's like I try so hard to just dismiss any negative thoughts I have and any good feelings and good thoughts that I have about something. And of course, I try really hard to generate those. I'm like, hey, did I do good, Adam? Ding, 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 ding. It's like he gives me these etheric points for doing things that raise my vibe. It's just another one of those little Jedi mind tricks, but it works.
Yeah, no, that's fun. And I remember learning, and I just came up with this. Adam showed me how to play this game where I'd feel his energy. Because after learning the Reiki and be able to feel the tingling, instead of using dowsing rods or pendulum, I would use my hands. So I'd say, okay, Adam, we're going to play Marco Polo in the room.
Oh, wow.
And I would walk around until I sensed his energy, and it was so much fun. So that lifted me right up. It was proof that he was there in the energy field.
I love that. That is a great way. Another little game I play that's similar to that is I do something similar with my hands where I will tell Adam to make my left hand tingle. He's doing it right now.
Yeah.
Starting in the thumb, but not the right hand. So I feel just a sense of warmth and serenity on the palm of my right hand right now. Okay, now my left palm is starting to tingle, beginning with the thumb, and it's spreading into the palm now. So then what I do is I say, okay, turn it up. Make it stronger. Make it stronger.
Yeah,
that's cool. You can feel it a little bit more. So that's another thing. Now, I have to share with you, your Adam, he paid me another visit yesterday evening.
Oh, he did?
He did. Oh, my, it is so amazing. I am telling you, I'm just learning. You're way ahead of me with this, I would say, mediumship work. Sara, Sara communicates with her own son, and she's able to actually, she works as a medium now. She's a practicing medium, and you can actually get a reading with Sara. My intuitive work is a little different. I do communicate with Adam directly, but I hadn't really tried to communicate with anyone else, and I hadn't really explored working in that capacity. I'm doing different things. I'm doing the videos. We're writing a book, and I'm not even sure whether that's my path. Busy. But here's the deal. This is what was interesting, though. Sara sent me a clip yesterday of a little vignette that her son Adam did on this little application called Vine. It was hilarious. It was so cute. And I was showing my husband last night, and I became aware of a certain feeling that I had in my chest that felt very familiar, and all of a sudden I remembered it. In July, just before we did our previous special with you and your son Adam, I was in Lake Tahoe when all of a sudden your son Adam connected with me, and I had this sensation in my chest, and I knew unquestionably that it was him, and we made this deal that he would use that feeling to show me that he's there. And I remember telling you about it, and then all of a sudden last night when I'm showing Greg this Vine video where he is just cracking us up, he had such a wonderful sense of humor. The feeling enters my chest. He was there.
So now you know that Adam's going to come visit you in your chest.
Well, that somehow something doesn't seem quite right about that, but let's say he'll visit my heart. So how's that feel having coffee squirt out your nose, Sara?
Yeah, that's right. We'll say heart. That's so funny.
It is.
That is really cool. That is really cool. And so, what I love doing with the mediumship is to help others to learn how to, not learn, to open up and to receive that communication that's already there, but to help teach them different ways, like you and I have just discussed, to help them to communicate on their own.
Right.
Because so many of us, were raised in doubt. If you cannot see it with your physical eyes, it doesn't exist. So we have to shift gears, and we have to go from left brain to right brain, because this is all about emotions and feelings, and kind of rewiring and being open to it. But there's not a better pull than someone that you love so dearly, and that they're there with you 24/7. Don't feel that they're, that you're taking them away from something else they should be doing, because they can be omnipresent in multiple places at the same time. And if you're watching this video, that means that this is part of your plan, is to learn how to feel, sense your loved one, and maybe communicate more easily. So,
right. I remember how it felt in the first year and a half after Adam transitioned. I would hear people talk about communicating with their loved ones, and I thought that was wonderful, and it validated my thoughts that he was still here. It's entirely different, though, when you are able to communicate with them directly. In December of 2013, almost 2 years after Adam transitioned, my younger sister Rhonda transitioned in her sleep. The strangest thing happened. About 5 days before that, I had a premonition that she may not be here with us long. Now, she was not seriously ill. She wasn't very old. But I still had a premonition that she wasn't going to be with us much longer. So I had a reading scheduled with Adam, and I asked about it. And he confirmed that that was the case, that she was going to be choosing to leave. And I asked if there was anything I could do or any way I could help. And we talked about some things I could do to help, but probably that I couldn't ultimately change what was going to happen. He led me to believe it would be around 6 months. At the time we had the conversation, I think it was the 5th of December, and he thought that it would be around May. It was actually 5 days later. If I have the date correct, I think it was the night of December 10th. I was sitting up in bed and I was trying to communicate with Adam. Again, I'm working on clearing my energy field, and I sort of mentally just opened my crown, had my eyes shut, and I was just kind of feeling to see if there was anybody out there. And all of a sudden, I heard my sister's voice and saw an image of her. And the best way to describe it was, it's like it was in the back left quadrant of my brain. I could see her, and she was jumping and dancing and spinning. If I wanted to catch her, it would have required a butterfly net. And she was absolutely celebrating. And she said, "Cindy, it's Rhonda." And I said, "Rhonda? What are you doing in my head?" She said, "It's so beautiful." And she's really emotional, just overcome. And I said, "Where are you?" She said, "I'm in heaven." In fact, I think I got that backwards. I think she said she's in heaven. In fact, that's what she said. She said, "I'm in heaven." And I said, "What are you doing in heaven?" And she said, "It's so beautiful." And the only thing I could think of to say was, that's what they all say. I mean, and then I get all Freudian on myself, and I'm thinking, why am I fantasizing that my sister's dead? But knowing that she shared my beliefs in the supernatural, so to speak, or metaphysical, yes. I was going to call her. I'm like, God, I got to call Rhonda tomorrow morning and tell her about this. The next thing she said was, "I'm with Adam."
Oh.
And when she said it that way, I got freaked out. Well, I didn't know what I knew. I just knew that was weird as hell. But I did say to myself, gee, this is really interesting, because I've always thought it was super fascinating to be able to channel. And I was thinking to myself, Rhonda her partner's name was Daniel, that she lived with. And I was thinking, boy, if Rhonda ever did die, I could totally channel her for Daniel.
Right.
Then I woke up Greg, and I told him what happened. And then Greg and I both went to sleep. The next morning, the phone rang about 8:30, and it was my mother calling to tell me that Daniel had called her and said that Rhonda had died in her sleep.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable. But I experienced Rhonda's leaving in an entirely different way. There was just something about the fact that she told me she was in heaven, and that I could feel her and I could hear her, and that I knew she was okay, that allowed me to process a sudden traumatic death in an entirely different way.
Right, right. What a beautiful gift for her to give you. And you already had the validations before, but just another double whammy, just so you know, I can do this a little differently now, grieving with my sister.
Absolutely. And because I was able to do that a little differently, I took the lead and did her service. It helped design the memorial service in a manner that was more celebration of life. It just had a higher frequency to it, if you will. And I did share the story at the service. And the interesting thing is, what I discovered was we have soul level connections with people. While we're in the body. We can be thinking about something and the other person's going to get it. You might be thinking about what you want for dinner. You're thinking about Chinese, and Larry's going to call on the way home, "Hey, Sarah, what do you think about having Chinese tonight?" Right? So the bottom line is, once we have that kind of a soul level connection with somebody, that doesn't go away. That does not involve our ears or our eyes, right? And so that does not stop when we no longer have ears and eyes. Once we have a soul level connection with someone, they can continue communicating with us when one or the other leaves the body, because we are already communicating that way while we are both in bodies.
Oh, yes. I mean, we can communicate with our animals and our babies, and we do that already. We just don't give ourselves credit for it.
Absolutely right. And it's, it's all about, just thinking about them. One of the ways that I have used to help people call in a loved one or to feel a connection with them is to maybe imagine they're sitting at the kitchen table. I'm going to say we're going to play a little game. Sit at the kitchen table and put your back to the door. Okay? Now, one of your loved ones is going to come up and stand behind you, and you get to guess who it is. I don't know that we've ever really think about this before, but there's like often a certain smell or a certain feeling that we get that's associated with a certain person. And often we don't even really realize that. However, if you go into that space where you are thinking of that person, what they smelled like, how you felt when they were around, and just imagine them standing behind you, they are.
They are. It's like a text message without a phone. That's right.
Absolutely.
I know, that's the cool part. So you'll amplify when you're in that less resistant place. All your senses are amplified.
Absolutely.
And so that's because we're out of our headspace. In our headspace, we got monkeys playing in there that we're not even paying attention to the bird that's at the window or the rainbow, in the sky. We're too busy in our head.
Absolutely. So. And I like the fact that you mentioned resistance, because that's a great way to describe what's really going on with grief. We are resisting the fact that that person is gone. Yeah, we're resisting. Now, when I know that it sounds like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, saying that they're gone and saying there's no separation. It's resisting the fact that they're no longer here physically and that we cannot continue the relationship that we had with them before. But it does not mean that we cannot continue having a relationship with them. And the amount of pain that we experience about the fact that we can't continue the old relationship is in direct proportion to the amount of resistance that we have. Adam explained it to me like, imagine a big fat rubber band and you pull it back. The further you pull it back, the more it's going to hurt when it snaps.
Yeah, that's right. That's being more present. And we cannot stop change, but we feel that we can't move forward when we're deep in grief. We don't know how. And that's the whole idea of having tools. I wasn't given tools growing up, how to move forward.
Nor was I.
Other cultures, yes. Their belief systems are totally different.
Well, let's talk about that, about belief systems, because you and I both had a similar experience where, our families don't share our belief systems. And for a while they humored us, because we were in grief. But now, who knows what they think? Some of them, it just depends on how fixed they are in their belief system. How crazy they think I am.
Well, and when it comes to our belief system, that's like, it's like you can't tell a parent how to parent. You can't tell someone else how to eat or how to act. You're getting into their space and it's threatening and they get scared because if they don't have their belief system, they don't even, then what? And so when our child dies, our whole walls crumble anyway. And that's part of the journey you and I chose. So our walls would crumble, and so we can rebuild our lives the way we want to live them with our all new beliefs.
Absolutely. And when I talk about a belief system, I think all of them have way more in common in terms of spiritual belief systems than they have differences.
Yes. We just, where our part of the country, our part of the world, it's much fear-based.
Yeah.
And so that's where we have to let go of that. If we would listen more to Jesus's teachings, there's no fear involved in that.
Right.
But we had authority figures putting fear in it.
Absolutely.
Fear-monger.
So the more open you are to the idea or the possibility that our loved ones are still here, it changes your frequency to that a little bit closer to where they are. And we are a little bit more receptive to signs from our loved ones. Sara, what are some of the things that you do differently to celebrate the holidays?
the first Christmas, I'd already finished my Reiki certifications. I had seen a medium 2 or 3 times. I was communicating with Adam, but I wasn't hearing him yet. I just had the knowing and the sensations, which was all great and beautiful, but I was still having grief.
Right.
You know, that first year of the first of everything in that first year. And so I had gone in for a quick reading a couple months before Christmas. And Adam came through in the session and said he wanted us to use his cowboy boots as his Christmas stocking. I was so excited. I was like, I had something concrete to focus on and to celebrate for the holidays. So it has become a tradition.
That is so cool.
Every year.
Those were a very special pair of boots, though. Maybe tell us.
He was on a contract job in Colorado at the time of the accident.
Yeah.
And the day of the accident, he was in some little small town shopping, and he bought a pair of steel toe work boots that happened to be cowboy boots, and he was so proud of them and so excited about them that he sent them on Instagram and Snapchat, you know, to all the friends.
Yeah.
And so everyone knew within just a couple minutes about these new cool boots.
Yeah.
And that was his last message to most of us, was the Snapchat, the photo of his boots, because he had those on the night of the accident. And so that was a special part because we knew how special they were to him, and they still are special. Adam still jokes about the boots all the time.
Well, you told me some of the things he said, and it's absolutely hysterical. What did he say? He wishes
he would have been able to spend more time wearing them.
I don't know about those two Adams. They both have just amazing senses of humor.
There is so much humor in heaven. We don't give them credit because, you know, even though I believed in the afterlife, not knowing that I would be having this one-on-one conversations with him, I didn't know that he would keep his same humor. I thought it was going to be this righteous, you know.
I know. I'm telling you, during the first reading I had with Baker Gendron, she was his Adam's first spiritual interpreter. We actually recently just did an episode of Chillin with Adam. Excuse me, with Baker. I knew by that point, I think, that I was going to be writing a book, and I wasn't. At that point, I didn't know we were going to be writing it together. But he wouldn't stop saying "fuck."
Right?
And
it shook you up a little bit.
Gosh. I mean, well, how about this? He's got the exact same personality that he had when he was here. And that was one of his favorite words. And so why is he going to change now that he's there? So, you know, I kind of had the same idea you did, that, you know, there would be something more celestial about him. And the bottom line is there absolutely is. He's tapped into all the spiritual wisdom he had. But he still has the same personality. So all that wisdom still comes through the same personality.
He's just, Adam and Adam are just more of themselves.
They are. He's more Adam.
They've ascended higher, just like you and I and all of us who are trying to lift our energy and vibration and clear our energy field. We're ascending now. We can ascend while we're here on Earth, and we continue ascending on the other side.
So ascending simply means to continue raising your own personal frequency.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what we're referring to by ascending? Okay. Very good. So tell me, I want to know what you do with those cowboy boots.
So we've always had them on the fireplace, but we said this is perfect. And so we have them sitting on the fireplace, and then each year we decorate them. I put like a battery operated candle, and then I decorate with this different Christmas festivities with greenery or whatever. But I stuff the boots with some of his favorite, the Grey Poupon mustard that you made fun of with Adam in the Vine video.
Yeah, that was great. He did his own commercial.
In the Fireball whiskey.
Oh,
we
yeah.
always put that in there, and candy or whatever else. He has a daughter, so I let her choose a few things that we can put in it, and she'll make a card or, you know, write a letter that we can also put in it, and then we keep it lit through the holiday season. And we put a picture of Adam with his daughter in front of the boots too. So it comes out a little different every year, but that's just how I am. Decorate different every year.
I love that. Do you have a photograph of his boots?
I do. I'll send it to you so you can post it.
Okay, that's great. We'll have to do that. Now for Adam, Adam Hamel, we have a tree. In October of 2011, the same year Adam transitioned, Adam's stepbrother, Stephen, and my husband, Greg, and I went to Yosemite. And we purchased about a 6 to 9 inch tiny sprig of evergreen and came home and planted it. And let me show you what Adam tree looks like now. Let's see if we can get a look at him. He's right behind me. Let's see here. Okay. Let's stand up. How we doing?
That looks good. I see it.
Okay.
No.
So this is...
So now bring the camera up a little bit so you can see up higher towards the sky. Yeah.
Here we go. So Adam Tree is here, and he's got all his little magical friends with him. He's got a couple of frogs here. Our nickname for his brother is Nate Frog. So we've got Nathan's energy in here. Down here at the bottom, we've got a black panther. We've got a couple of crystalline bears. We've got crystals and rocks and a mama deer and a baby deer. Next to Adam, we have Rhonda Tree. This tree is a memorial for my sister Rhonda, and Rhonda Tree actually dances. I don't know if she's dancing for you right now. I think she's trying to. All of a sudden the wind came up. She's a beautiful blue spruce. And so we celebrate by decorating Adam Tree and Rhonda Tree.
Yeah, that's really neat. That's really neat. So you can keep that tradition going. So that's what it's about, building new traditions or changing or altering your traditions. If you're really into traditions, you can continue your traditions. I recommend that you do something in honoring your loved one, your child. Whether it's a table setting, whether it's a memory table, whether it's sharing funny stories and videos, whatever it is, to just honor and recognize that person was a big part of your life, and guess what? They're still there with you.
Well, and here's another way to look at it. I absolutely believe in, number one, taking care of yourself. Depending how new the loss is, that may even be a little bit too much. Depending on where you are in the grief process. Again, there's no right or wrong way. I love that. I think that is the very best way to go. And I think as time passes, most of us are able to do that. But sometimes it's just about taking care of yourself and doing what you can do. And if you just can't bring yourself to do the holidays, go away. Take a trip. Give yourself permission and don't do it. Mm-hmm. Now, in my case, I did take advantage of that, the first, year or two. Honest to God, I can't even remember. I can't, itemize the Christmases right after. It gets really fuzzy.
It all blends together.
It does. Really, it blends together and it gets fuzzy. But I know there were times where I just couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it. And I did not make myself decorate if I didn't feel like decorating. And I didn't, I really scaled it down. And, it's interesting. I found that I kind of prefer it that way, to just kind of do it on a little bit smaller scale. But I think we need to do whatever is best for us. And that includes, sometimes who we can be around. Whether we can be around certain people at all, or maybe for how long, maybe limit the amount of time that we're with certain people, especially people who don't share your beliefs. And, it's hard to spend time with your family when they don't act as though your loved one ever existed, because they know you think he still does. Yeah. They're like, don't get her started. And
don't get her started.
And I don't think, what do they think they're going to get somebody started about? They're not going to, you can't convince somebody who doesn't want to believe of something that they don't believe. The bottom line is, I didn't believe until I did.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. We had to have our own catastrophic event.
Absolutely. Right. And it's never been my goal to convince anybody to believe the same way I do. I'm just simply sharing the way I believe, and if it changes how somebody else believes, that's wonderful. If it doesn't, that's okay. I respect the way they believe. However, it does make it more difficult for me to be with people who don't believe, especially when they are sharing the same loss, if that makes any sense. The loss of Adam's physical presence.
Yes, and it does, and you know, the holidays can be difficult even when you're not grieving.
Absolutely, no kidding. They're difficult
because we all have our triggers. We have our triggers with our people.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, taking care of yourself. You just you've got to follow your own heart. And this is what your journey is, going through grief. You've got to follow your own heart. Not someone else's path. Your own heart.
If let's say the first year or so, it's just a little bit too tender to be around those people who don't believe he's still there, but they still love him and they're still hurting. And if you think they're not thinking of him, they are, so I don't want to make it sound like I'm not cutting him a break. I know they loved him just like I did and that they're missing him, but it is not helpful for them to talk about it. So, sometimes I choose to just do something different. And Sarah and I were talking about, different ways to celebrate the holidays. Volunteering, helping somebody who has less than you do. That is always a way to make you a person,
Yes.
My dad used to say, I felt sad because I had no shoes till I met a man who had no feet. So, it does make you feel better when you help people.
And since we've already been through the worst of the worst, we know that there's so many people out there hurting. And so, giving is living. So whether you're giving time, if you're giving whatever it is, it's going to make you feel better. It's going to help heal your heart and lift your vibration. For sure.
I discovered when we were talking that both of our boys had a tender spot in their hearts for people who are homeless. My Adam, he gave away his last $2 one day. He was with me and he knew I would make sure his needs were met. He didn't worry about stuff like that. So, that's a way to honor him, giving money. And you were going to say?
Yeah. And Adam will let me know, like if I'm pulling up to a corner where there's going to be someone, needing pocket change, he will let me know ahead of time so I can have my change ready.
Isn't that amazing?
Isn't that cool?
I think it would be a great experiment one day for me to just drive around town and let Adam show me where to go.
Yeah,
sure,
why not?
Open your heart and go on an adventure, have some $1 bills and just go out and see what you can find and just see where you're led.
Yeah, you can do that even with your songs. You can flip through your songs or videos or whatever. They're going to lead you. Your loved ones are going to lead you to a sign also, not just a sign in front of you, but they'll help use you. They'll get in your energy field so you make sure that you turn right and that you end up in front of a store, that has some memory or something triggered to it or has a sign saying, Adam's Spices in the window or whatever.
Yes, absolutely.
So something cool. So, and once you acknowledge it and be grateful for it and believe that it's true, it will just build off of that.
It absolutely does.
Yeah. Our loved ones want us to be happy.
They do.
They want us to be happy because this is not home. So we know this is not home. So it's so important not to feel guilty when we have those moments of feeling happy, in the beginning, because that's another problem I see. Another thing that we all have to work through is feeling guilt for wanting to laugh or have moments of happiness.
Yeah.
And taking care of your body physically is another huge one. I'm health and fitness nut anyway. But taking care of your body during the holidays, as we know already,
absolutely,
is something that helps us kind of glide through the holidays. But when you're through grief, your fresh water, your exercise, being out in nature like you are right now, listening to music, being around small children, animals, anything that's going to lift you up, and you're just going to feel that energy around you.
Absolutely.
And it's just going to give you extra peace in your heart. So it is tough in that first year or two. And some people it's going to be tough for a very long time. There's no time limit. I'm just going based on what you and I have been through and others that we've helped. That the first year or two but once you start communicating, you're going like, well, he's right here. He's sitting on the couch next to me.
I'm
okay.
I just happened to think of another way that we discussed. We were talking about maybe writing a letter to our loved one over the holidays, and that brought to mind automatic writing.
Yeah, that's another great tool.
Yeah, no, that is something Adam continues to tell me to try, and I don't do it nearly enough. I learned about automatic writing a long time ago, like when Adam was probably a baby, and that has to do with sitting down with your eyes closed, holding a pen, and just writing whatever you're inspired to write. Now, another way to do it is typing. I have found that I have experienced it when I was typing a lot. But he has told me, Mom, get your red pen. Get your red pen and just sit down and do it. So, that's another thing. Maybe just try to, go to that kitchen table, and how we talked about imagining your loved one and pretending like they're going to walk up behind you. Maybe go to that table, get yourself a pen, go into your own private space and connect with them, and just sit there with the pen and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Don't expect too much at first, but just give it a try. Our loved ones use so many different signs. It can be birds, it can be songs. Like Sarah said, it can be so many things. So you need to figure out what way your loved one communicates with you, because it's not going to be the same for all of us. For instance, my friend Sean, his son Brian communicates with him via songs, and they're usually country western songs. So they tend to have a primary means of communication.
Yeah, songs are great because it could be a song that is relevant to that person. To your loved one, or it could be the title or the lyrics. There's always something, and sometimes you'll throw 3 or 4 songs together, and before you know, you've got a whole story going.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So it's clearing your energy field and clearing out, things that are bothering you, things you're holding on to. That's what's going to open you up to be able to communicate easier, and that can be a daily thing. Working on clearing and balancing.
It does. It needs to be for me, it really needs to be a daily thing. I mean, it's something that I do when I first wake up in the morning is, connect with whatever source grounds you and empowers you and lifts your spirits. I don't want to say what I do, because what I do works for me, and it should be whatever works for you.
Yeah, but everyone's different. And waking up, we talked about this before, waking up and showing gratitude. You can do through your Reiki principles.
And that's
showing gratitude. So being positive. As soon as your feet hit the floor when you get up, it's thinking positive. You can't be the recording from yesterday.
Right.
You've got to clear it out. Every moment's a new moment. It's not just every day. Yes. So just clear it out and think positive. The glass is half full at all times, always. And that's just going to help you so much getting through the grief. Just changing your thought process. So
gratitude is probably the highest vibe feeling that I can think of right off the top of my head. When you start counting your blessings, instead of going into why do I not want to get up this morning? Why would I, just as soon let the undertow suck me down? You can't go there. Changing your thoughts will change your life.
For sure.
What we think determines how we feel, and how we feel determines how we behave. So it all goes back to those thoughts. There's just not a more worthy practice than controlling thoughts.
And you can't get around the law of attraction. So whatever energy you're putting out is what you're going to receive.
Absolutely right. And so how do you do this? How do you control your thoughts? I find for me, the very best way to do it is just to focus on the here and now, the power of now.
The present.
Absolutely.
Eckhart Tolle. That's right.
That's one of the best books you'll ever read, folks. Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. Seriously, though, I ask myself, whatever it is I'm disturbed about, is it happening right now? Is it happening right this minute? And if it's not, then I'm okay. And just put my full attention on what I'm doing at that moment, and not allow myself to trip in my head.
No, that's right. And I can show a couple of examples. In the very beginning, in that first year, I was getting messages even from my dad. It was like, I didn't want to cook. I'd forget even how to make basic things. You know how you're so discombobulated.
Yes.
But I love to cook, and I still love to cook. I love to eat it, but I love to cook. So I remember my dad coming through with messages saying, get back to your cooking, get back to your crafts. And it was like I was resisting moving forward.
Right.
I was resisting because I thought if I moved forward, I was further away from Adam.
Oh, so you, even though you were getting signs from him, you felt like you needed to stay in that place where you're getting them?
Yeah, it was it was kind of weird. You know how you just get these triggers, and I'm thinking, well, but if I move forward, I guess I thought it was just all going to happen instead of me doing and processing.
Yeah.
There was just all this magical things were going to happen.
Yeah.
On their own.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like open a special door and all these wonderful gifts come flying at you. And so once I got back into doing things I enjoyed doing, it was turning off those monkeys in my head.
Yes. Yes.
I could focus on my crafts, and I would listen to Eric videos, the channeling Eric videos, when I would be working on sanding wood and working on furniture. Once I got back into doing some of those things, it helped lift some of the grief too. But I can still remember my dad saying to make homemade macaroni and cheese, because that was one of his favorite dishes. And I hadn't made it in years, the homemade. And so I thought, okay, I'll make it just for him. So that helped me to think of different things, even though he was telling me, but I started, oh my gosh, I'm going to make potato salad because Adam loves potato salad. It was different things. It was just almost like a fishing pole. It was just kind of luring me just a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And that helped move me forward. And another reading, it was one of the channeling Eric mediums in the beginning. She was doing practice readings, and she came through with my dad also and said, Sarah, you got to quit doing this. Grief is not a round trip. It's a one-way ticket. Which sounded just like my dad, but it was just like, am I really looping a lot? Starting over?
Yes. Yeah.
In the beginning? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I just didn't realize that I was.
Yeah, I think we do that. We do. It's really hard to move
forward. It plays over.
Give yourself permission to really not, let's just go with a balance thing. There comes a point in the grief process, there's a tipping point, where it's a little more bearable than less bearable. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And giving yourself permission to go to pass that tipping point to a point where you can actually get your head around accepting it. Because once you get to that place, bam, they're there.
Then the presents come flowing and accepting it. And that's all based on everything we just talked about. Who you're around, what you're eating, what are you listening to on TV? What are you putting in your little environment?
Right.
We've got to work on yourself to lift you up. And you're the only one that can do that. You got to control that. But your thoughts are the big one, and replaying. So he came through strict and just told me, and Adam told me too, you need to be strong like Elisa. And I was like, I thought I was being strong.
Now, Elisa is our friend, Elisa Meduse, who also lives in Houston, or Meduse, I'm sorry. Elisa Meduse is a friend of Sarah's and mine who lives in Houston, and she also has a son, Eric Meduse, who transitioned. She and her son have 2 books, My Son in the Afterlife, Conversations from the Other Side, and My Life After Death. Those are both wonderful books.
And those were instrumental. His book was instrumental. I came across it just a few months into my journey of grief. And then when I read it like in one sitting, and then I looked in, I was like, oh my gosh, Elisa lives here in Houston. I've got to meet this woman. And then I met her a few months later through Carrie, and we've been friends since.
Isn't that wonderful?
The Channeling Eric blog was huge. It was huge for me because I could focus on my metaphysical books, any spiritual teachings, the Channeling Eric blog and videos, all that to help keep positive focus on the afterlife, in my thoughts.
I wish I had found them sooner. I read the book, but I was not aware that they had Channeling Eric YouTube channel or a blog until about a year ago. but they're wonderful. And they have helped so many people. I'll tell you how it helped me. I was so relieved when I finally found another spirit who said, fuck. I kept thinking, how am I going to, I mean, it's bad enough that I'm writing this book about, this boy who's supposed to be dead, but he's still alive. It's like, geez, Adam, if you just stop saying fuck, they might have their minds a little bit more open to the possibility. And then I read, about Eric and see that Eric, there's just Eric in living color using all the language he used when he was alive. And that is exactly how Adam is. And so that really, oh my gosh, it freed me up so much in terms of my being able to move forward with my story.
Yeah, the story, and it was just extra validation for you. Go, man, this is truly, truly, truly real.
Absolutely.
Because you can talk to Elisa and meet Elisa, so you knew this is really tangible.
Absolutely.
You had something to focus on. So, there's so many, I've met so many amazing parents that are on their own journey and communicating and, reaching out and helping others. And through the blog, many of people have branched off and they have different groups too. And like with Chillin with Adam, which is a great group. You're helping and reaching out to so many. And so there's just so many avenues for all these parents to reach out to and listen to your heart. If it's positive and feels good, that's the avenue you take.
That sounds great. So do our boys have any more advice before we say goodbye to folks today?
Your Adam is wearing a green sweatshirt, bright green sweatshirt, and it says, all elfed up.
All elfed up? That is hilarious.
Which is perfect timing because you were just talking about his language.
No kidding. Does he have anything on his head or his feet?
He's got like a stocking cap, a traditional one that comes down with the bell, like a Santa hat.
Yep.
He has that. And his feet, he has elf shoes on too. He's dressed up like a green elf.
The curly toes. That's so funny.
With the bell.
As soon as you told me that, it's like I could see him with this hat on and the little curly shoes. That's why I asked what he had on his head. Now, of course, it's not a far cry to imagine that somebody who has all elfed up on their shirt is going to have an elf hat and elf shoes. But still, it's like, yeah, I can see this. And that is totally Adam's sense of humor, all elfed up. Oh, my gosh, he's so funny.
It is funny. And then my Adam, he has his sweater is just a traditional, looks like Argyle. Like you could just buy it at the store, from the 70s with like Argyle, almost like a plaid.
Okay. Not the diamonds.
No, not the diamonds on the Argyle. More like a plaid, but
there
it looks like, looks like you just bought it like at Sears and Roebuck, kind of sweater. And, they're together. They're playing like they're stepbrothers. The movie Step Brothers with Will Ferrell?
Oh my God. That movie is absolutely hysterical. It's a little edgy, folks, so don't let your kids
a little edgy.
You don't want it. Don't show the children.
It was one of Adam's favorites, and I've watched it probably 24 times.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
They're holding, it's like they're bantering back and forth right now. Just the pushing and shoving, as adults, but they're pushing and shoving. Yeah, like they do in Step Brothers.
Uh-huh.
I said, no, we're not going to go to the drum scene. We're not going to the drum scene.
Oh God, please no. That was traumatic even for me.
And they're just doing this, knowing, oh, you're hurting me, get out of my place. Just silliness. They're just being really silly and acting up and having fun.
Aww.
They're having fun. Adam's got like white socks on and loafers.
Which
Adam? He just looks like my Adam with his sweater.
With the sweater. Of course.
He's very retro looking. He's very retro,
That's funny.
And
the more I learn about your Adam, the more I see how much alike those two are.
Their silliness.
Oh,
but
God.
then it's the beauty of it, that they can keep showing their humor and teaching us from the other side. And,
right.
And that's part of Adam's journey was that he could do more work on the other side than on this side.
And my Adam as well.
Yours too. And he's helping you with your blog and your videos and your website.
Yes, he is.
Reaching out to so many parents. So anyway, those are just a few of the ideas. Your children, for those bereaved parents, your children are reaching out to you to help you get through the holidays. to find joy. You may just get a spark or a memory or a flash of your child, and know that truly that is your child coming through. And you can elaborate, and you think it's your imagination, but it's not your imagination. It's their energies coming through, and they're interjecting into your thoughts.
Absolutely.
So I would just wish everyone the happiest holidays that they possibly can have. And I hope that this video does help some. And if you have any other tips or suggestions, I hope that you leave it on Cindy's comments so we can help others and pass it along.
Thanks so much, Sara.
You're welcome.
I'm so glad we did this.
I am too. Even though we're all like sweat balls, we're like, that one skit from Saturday Night Live at Christmas. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's probably back from the 70s or early 80s. Wasn't it the sweaty balls? Oh, you'll have to look it up.
Well, you know what? That sounds like a perfect homework assignment for the mother of Adam, to have to look up sweaty balls on Saturday Night Live.
It's like the classic Christmas skit. You have to watch it.
Okay, well, then that's what I'm going to do to cheer myself up. I'm going to look up the sweaty balls on Saturday Night Live. Thanks for watching, folks.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Sending love and light to all of you.
Yes. Yes. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Love you, Cindy.
Love you, Sara. Bye.
Bye-bye.